Joining us today, I have the multifaceted, extremely talented Jonah Platt talking to us today about his new podcast, Being Jewish. I am thrilled to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
I mean, you are doing such important work. You just launched in the beginning of October, and I feel like you are changing minds and moving things forward. But I mean, you shifted, Jonah. You are this incredibly talented actor and producer, director. The list goes on and on. I mean, I feel like there's nothing you haven't done. And now you've shifted to create a podcast. Why?
You know, this felt really important to do. In the past year, since October 7th, I think like for so many of us, you know, it was gasoline on the fire of my Jewish advocacy. And even before that, I'd been thinking about, oh, maybe I should do a podcast. But that was sort of more of like this would be fun kind of a thing, more lighthearted, more... Because for me, like part of my advocacy has always been about trying to celebrate Jewish identity. And so that's precedes October 7th, or that's a mission of mine to just get people to be more proud and open and celebratory. But then since the 7th, and you know, I've been speaking a lot online and had been getting a lot of positive feedback of people being like, this is really helpful. And so I started to think maybe the way to expand on that would be to sort of have my own show. So instead of, you know, coming up with a video whenever I can think of one, I'm coming out with stuff every week, and I'm constantly thinking about this stuff and able to hopefully really move the needle for people by bringing on people a lot more recognizable than I am, who will bring eyeballs and audiences with them, who can then all learn from the stuff that we're talking about.
I mean, you're also bringing in a lot of non-Jews who are allies and advocates, and hearing their voices, which I love because it's such a different perspective.
It's super important. There are so many great allies. I've only had one episode out so far with a non-Jewish ally, but I have a bunch lined up coming. And first of all, it's important to Jews to realize we're not alone. Like there are prominent, excellent people who are fighting with us and really standing by us. Yes. And I think that's really important to hear. And I think it's also, you know, these allies are grateful for the opportunity to sort of let the world know what they think and feel and why this is important to them and what their passion is. And I always try to reach as many people as I can. Like, I don't want to just be stuck in the echo chamber preaching to the choir. And a lot of my audience is non-Jewish. And I love that. And I converse with them and dialogue with them, and they tell me how much they're learning and gaining new understanding. And so it's important to have that voice represented as well.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you're lucky because you were raised in a very, you know, fun-loving, Jewish, proud Jewish family. And so you had that experience as a child, and now you can pay it forward and share it with the world. But not all Jews had that.
No.
Is your podcast addressing that at all, about the Jewish pride and finding it and how to find it within ourselves? Because not everyone feels that way.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it is. I mean, that's sort of one of my main theses of the whole thing is that, you know, I say you're as Jewish as you feel, and it's never too late to connect more in a different way or in a deeper way than you have. I'm all about trying to bring more people into the tent. I think if you have that desire, and I know a lot of people have had that desire awakened in them since October 7th to feel more part of the community, more connected to their identity. I think that's amazing. And we should all be doing what we can to reach out a hand to those people and say, yeah, come on in. Let's figure out what's going to work for you, what's going to make you feel connected, and, you know, lean into that.
100%. I love that you say that. And it's true. You're living proof. I mean, you married a beautiful woman who was not born Jewish,
right?
Who became Jewish, you know, and how was that experience for you?
I mean, it's the greatest gift she could have possibly given me, which I've told her. You know, now she is, you know, the queen of our Jewish day school and on every board and changing things up, and, you know, the most amazing Jewish mother and community member and advocate. It's been unbelievable to really see. And, you know, I think the key was, and this is what I say to people who are perhaps going to get into this situation, I brought it up with her on our first date. I said, and I didn't say like, are you going to convert? I said, look, I'm very serious about you. You're very serious about me. It was a very, you know, real connection right at the beginning. We kind of knew right away.
Wow.
And I said, you know, you're serious, I'm serious. If this goes all the way, like I think we want it to, would you be open to the idea of talking about converting? Because if you said, absolutely not, I'll never convert in a million years, luckily I didn't have to like finish that sentence, because she said, of course, I'd be happy to, yes, I would totally talk about it. But it would have been a real challenge, and I don't know what would have happened because it's so important to me. And her one thing was, I need to see that it's important to you, and this isn't like your parents saying you better marry a Jew.
Wow.
And in dating me and getting to know me in my life, she was like, oh yeah, this is like who you are all day, every day. It's like incredibly important to you. And what was important to her about her Catholicism in her family was like the values, the family, the coming together for holidays, that stuff. And Jews do all of that. So it felt very familiar to her there, and have a connection to God. It was never sort of about the Jesus of it all to her or any of those other layers. It was really about having a connection with the divine and the family and values and traditions and that whole thing. So it was a kind of a natural shift for her, and it's been amazing.
I love that you said it on the first date. I mean, I love that you're so open about it. And what great advice to young couples now who are dating.
Yeah, I think what I've seen happen with other couples is they wait, and then they wait until like they're about to pop the question. And understandably, the other person's like, whoa, where is this coming from? Since when is this important? You know, if something's important to you, you should be assertive about it.
Yeah, 100%. And now you're raising a Jewish family and Jewish kids and proud Jewish kids. What is one thing that you do at home and like advice that you have for everybody watching on how to raise proud Jewish children? Because you are so proud of who you are. It's ingrained in everything you do.
So there's a couple things that are really simple that I do very intentionally to just sort of instill Jewish identity in the kids, beyond sending them to Jewish day school, which, you know, does a lot of that work as well. But at home, it's a couple things. We do Shabbat every Friday, even if Courtney and I have stuff to do after, or even if we're going to eat dinner after the kids, whatever, we light the candles, we do the Kiddush, we have the challah. We try to do that every Friday. I bless my kids every Shabbat, which is not something my parents did growing up, but I always liked. And so I want to have that be a part of their experience. And then with my son, my daughter's still too young, and also my wife puts her to bed more. But with my son, I say the Shema to him every night before he goes to bed, just sort of like that reminder of like, we're Jews, and like there's a comfort in that.
Oh, I love it. Like, makes me feel so warm. I do that with my kids too. And they say it all the time. I mean, even now, they're teenagers, and I still get in bed and say the Shema with them because it's like a sense of belonging and spirituality and connecting, and it's so special.
That's exactly it.
It's like being Jews, you just feel this special comfort of this connection to God and this higher power that I just want to make sure that we pass on to the next generation and not have it get lost, because it's so, so beautiful.
Yeah, and even beyond, you know, the connection to God, for me, even more, it's just the connection to the people, to the tribe, that like we've been saying this thing for thousands of years, you know, Hear, O Israel, and it's very special to me in that regard.
What's your thought? Because I love the way you talk about the fact that we are not righteous people. You've said this before, and I
Whoops.
Good. You've said this before, and I love it. That, like, you know, people will say, "Oh, you're so righteous. You're Jewish people. You think you're the chosen people, and you think you're better than us." What do you have to say to that?
You know, it's tough. I understand being on the outside and seeing a group say that they're the chosen ones. There's a little bit of like, what's up with that, guys? Like, so I can see where that comes from. It's unfortunate, but like all other things about how we understand Jews, it's so minimal, the understanding that people have. Like, the Jewish community definitely does not realize how little people outside the Jewish community know and understand about Jews. Even within the Jewish community, there's a real lack at times of certain levels of understanding. So the bigger issue there is just sort of educating the world, continuing to do so about what Jews are and what we stand for. Because all they really have to look, most people have never met a Jew. Most people in the world have never even met one. They only know what they see on the news or what they see on TV or whatever. Like, that is their only touch point. So we're obviously so much more than a war in the Middle East and, you know, Nebuchadnezzar characters in New York on a TV comedy or whatever. So we've got a lot of work to do, and we're very small. We have a small voice, and we just have to really be using it. And we kind of need all hands on deck.
Right, which is what you're doing with, you know, your podcast. You are using your voice, and you're amplifying other voices, and it's so important to do that. But people who don't have the opportunity to create, you know, a podcast or to speak in public, what advice do you have for them on what they can do as Jews to share, you know, the beauty of Judaism with other people?
Absolutely. So you don't have to be doing what I'm doing to be celebrating your identity. I mean, it's as simple as inviting friends over for Shabbat, non-Jewish friends or Jewish friends, whatever. Posting on your social media for your friends and followers some Jewish tradition you're doing with your family that you really like and enjoy. It's easy. It's whatever lane you're in, whatever's right in front of you. Do that and be proud and Jewish in that. If it's at school, saying, hey, we should do a Hanukkah thing in addition to the Christmas thing the school is doing, whatever it is, just advocating for yourself as a Jew and celebrating it.
100%. I think everyone has a role, as small or big as it is.
Yeah, it all makes a difference.
It makes a difference.
And it all has ripples. It just you can only affect whatever corner of the world you're in. So
Yes.
so affect that.
Yes, so true. My 14-year-old just started at Pali High. It's a huge school.
Yeah.
And she was like, nobody here really knows what happened on October 7th, Mom, and I want them to go and see the Nova exhibit. I said, great. Why don't you go to your principal? Why don't you make it happen? Long story short, she took 150 kids to the Nova exhibit.
Wow, that's amazing.
And she said, Mom, something that I thought was so small became so big because so many of these kids, non-Jewish, came up to me and said, wow, thank you. I had no idea.
Wow.
I had no idea. And so I really think that these little things that we do just have, like you said, ripple effects and can change the world and people's perspective.
That could be 150 people who have a totally different sort of path for the rest of their life in regards to how they think and feel about Jews in Israel from that one thing.
That's right.
It's really meaningful.
That's right. I mean, I think that we've been so demonized during this war. And so if you haven't been to Israel, it's so painful to watch. So many people think that, we're these terrible, colonizers and these awful people. But you talked about, on an episode that you went to Israel and it wasn't as painful as you thought it would be.
Yeah. So I went for the anniversary of October 7th. So I was just there earlier this month. Wow, it feels like a long time ago. And really, it was amazing to be there. First of all, those sites, I went to, kibbutz, Kfar Aza, and I went to Re'im where the Nova site is. Those places really feel sort of like hallowed ground now, like very something sacred about them, even though they're horrible. Mm-hmm. But really, what was so comforting was being in a place where everybody was grieving together, and everybody was thinking and feeling the same things, which is so not the experience being in the diaspora, where you're this tiny minority and you're sort of, seeking out the other people who maybe feel the same as you, and you don't know who is safe to talk to because somebody might hate you. Like, that doesn't exist at all in Israel. Everyone is safe to talk to. Nobody hates you for being Jewish in the land. And so there was a real ease and comfort even on that sad day of just, being all in it together. It's like when you go to a funeral and your family is all together, there's like so much comfort in just being together that helps you get through that day. And that's really what it felt like. Being with family in a time of mourning just felt good.
Yeah, it's so beautiful to hear that, and so true, because here, especially on college campuses, New York City, I mean, you can't recognize what's happening here, and there's so much hate, and it's painful, and it's hard,
yeah,
and it's hard to be a teenager, it's hard to be a mother, I mean, it's hard to be a parent, seeing all of this, and then you go to Israel, and you're like, okay, this is home,
yeah,
these are my people,
mm-hmm.
and that's what you felt.
Yes.
I'm so excited. I'm going next week. I haven't been since the war. I just want to go see my family. I mean, they've all been fighting in Gaza. I just want to hold them and give them love.
Wow.
Right? Because I just think to myself, like, but then you're there and it's a whole different experience. And I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see my people and feel my people. And I wonder, do you think, Jonah, that you would ever make Aliyah and move to Israel and leave?
I can't imagine we would. I don't think my wife would ever want to live in a different country from her family, which I totally understand. I think things would have to get pretty darn bad here for us to ever consider leaving, as much as I love Israel. But what I do definitely want to be doing is going more often. I had sort of not really gone much in like my 20s, from between like birthright till a little bit later. And then it was like 3 or 5 years in between. Now it's, I was there in April of 23. Now I've been there in the fall of 24. I'm hoping it's going to be a little bit more like that. I'd really like it to be.
Yeah. And you haven't been as a family yet. Your kids are so young.
We haven't been as a family. That my wife and I went together once. We went on a program called Honeymoon Israel, which was amazing, when she was pregnant with my son, which was very special. So he was sort of there. But yes, and my son, it's beautiful. Like, he really wants to go because we talk about it a lot. And I was just there, and he knows that when the kids get a little older, like, we're going to go on a family trip to Israel.
Oh, I love that. I think that's the way you raise, the love of Israel. Like when my kids went the first time, they're just like, wow, Mom, why have you been keeping this from us? Like, this is beautiful. It's so fun. There's so much to do. It's so safe. And I just wish that the world understood that.
Yeah.
LGBTQ, you talk about like the place, the most accepting, the biggest Jewish pride for gay people in the world.
The only accepting, not just the most, literally the only, where you can not be killed for being who you are.
But that's not the message that we're hearing.
I know. It's crazy. It's backwards. It's propaganda.
It's propaganda. And are you hoping that through your new podcast, you will hopefully change that? You will change that narrative?
Maybe. Like, I only try to really focus on reaching people I feel can be reached. I'm not trying to go after the like really cultish, brainwashed, no critical thinking people. That's my content isn't for them. My content is for people who think critically and are maybe unsure of what to believe because they're hearing all of this over here, but now they're hearing this from me and they're going, oh, that makes more sense because like this didn't feel right. And you saying that like those are terrorists, like, okay, yeah, that tracks more than what these guys are saying. It's like those are more the people I'm trying to reach. I don't think, I have to pray that some of these younger people who are so misguided and confused will like grow out of it when they get out of college and get into the real world and, learn sort of what sort of dodos they were when they were in college. I don't know. I hope that's the case. But you can only reach somebody whose mind is open to being reached.
Right. No, 100% waste of time otherwise. And what you're doing is extraordinary, Jonah. If there is one message you want to share with everyone about why they should listen to your podcast and why they should tune in, what would that message be?
Well, it depends on who you are and what you're looking for. But I think there's something for everybody in there, no matter if you're Jewish, not Jewish, totally informed, not informed. You're going to learn something new from our guests. You're going to learn about what it's like to be a Jew in Hollywood, in food, in sports, whatever it is, something that you are not. And you'll get to hear the experience from someone who really lives it day to day. Hopefully, I'll give you some food for thought about some other topics that you haven't considered from a certain perspective or just an idea that never occurred to you. So I think anyone who watches it, whoever you are, you're going to come away having learned something, having gained something, having felt, included in a space that's being made for you, and hopefully empowered, whatever your identity is, to be more proud and celebratory about it.
It's incredible what you've done. I'm so grateful to you because you are not extreme in your voice, and it's so level-headed, and it's so beautiful, and it's a takeaway when you walk away after you listen to an episode, just feel good. You're like, this feels good.
I'm so glad to hear that. That's awesome.
Honestly, it's uplifting, and it's something that we've needed for a long time, because when people come and say, well, I don't really understand, what's your stance on this? And like, why are you a Zionist? And you're explaining it all in this beautiful, meaningful, logical, and very honest way, and you've paused your career to do this. And that's tremendous. I mean, the fact that you feel like this is the most important thing for you to be doing at this time in your life right now, and you're doing nothing else, right? This is
at this moment, yes. But I mean, it's not just about my life, right? This is a moment in history, really. Like, this is the moment, I feel, of my lifetime. I hope it is. I hope it doesn't get any crazier than this. But, this is the moment. And, I'll often say, when we learn about the Holocaust, people are like, well, what would I have done if I was there? Would I be this person? Would I have hid the Jews? Would I have been quiet? Whatever. Now, obviously, we're not in the Holocaust now, but we are in a dire time for Jews in society that is reminiscent of that pre-Holocaust era. And we're seeing what you would have done. And I definitely, want to be one of those people who saw what was happening and said, this is not going to continue, and I'm going to try to do something about it.
Thank you for doing something about it. And I hope that everyone will tune in. Where can people find you? How can they listen to your podcast?
Thank you. So they can watch it on YouTube, on my @Jonah Platt Official YouTube site. And then they can listen to it on any podcast platform, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify. We're all on there. You can follow us on Instagram @BeingJewishPodcast. That's where we always post who our guests are going to be. And you can write in questions to them that we read on the pod with the guests, which is really fun. And we're also on TikTok @BeingJewish.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Thank you for pausing your career to do something that is tremendously just more important than yourself and a great service to the community. You're an awesome human being. I feel so grateful to be in your presence, honestly.
Oh my gosh.
Honestly.
You're far too kind.
I really mean that. I really mean that. Everybody, Jonah Platt, follow him on Instagram, Being Jewish. Listen to the podcast. I promise you, it feels really good when you're driving to listen to some uplifting, beautiful content. And we'll see you all next time right here on Moms Matter.